Inside of Alibre Design, we have the ability to control individual sketch entities and dimensions, things like that, with equations or global parameters. And if you're in a sketch mode already, you can come over here under parameters. You can see we got an equation editor as well as global parameters. Now, global parameters are things that are stored in a file that relate, and you can link in that file into your design, which has a bunch of things you're going to be using throughout the entire design process, right? So maybe it's a certain size hole or it's a certain size feature that you want to use across multiple parts. And if you link those together, then if you change that one global parameter, all of those holes will automatically change. And then if you look at the equation editor, it's going to allow us to kind of relate one dimension into another dimension. So let's go ahead and look at that. So if you click on global parameters, you can either, obviously it starts with none. You can select a new file or you can create a new file. So if you click on a new file, you get this editor that pops up over here, and you can create a brand new parameter. So I'm going to type in like hole number 1, right? And you generally don't want to have a space. So spaces are bad. Just keep hole 1. You can use an underscore if you want, something like that, but keep that in mind. And then my equation for it. And it can be as elaborate of an equation as you want, or it can just be simple as like a 1/4 inch. Like, so here's my distance. It's going to be a 1/4 inch hole, apply, and now it's there, right? So now that's stored in this file, okay? So I can then close out of this thing. I'd like to save my changes. I'm going to put it here in this folder that I'm already using. And now I've got that linked together, okay? So click OK. Now, if I were to create something like a circle, so here's my circle, drag it out, add a dimension, click over here, add the dimension, and instead of typing a value in here, I can go over here where it says the little F, and notice it shows up in this list. And this is the equation editor. You can also get to it right here, but it's saying, hey, there's a global parameter called hole number 1, and it's 1/4 inch, right? So if I say, hey, that's the guy I want to use, click OK. It defines the size of that hole as that 1/4 inch, and now that's linked back to that global parameter. I can use that same methodology throughout the entire design, and later on, if I said, hey, I don't want a 1/4 inch hole, I want a 3/8 inch hole, I can change just one of those parameters, and all those holes will automatically update. So it's pretty powerful. Okay. Other one is something like a rectangle. So grab a rectangle. Let's add a basic dimension of like 1 inch over here. Okay. Now, I want to make this line, or the length of my rectangle, 4 times whatever this length is. So I want that to be 1/4 rectangle. But if I change this value, I want this value to change 4x. And I can create an equation to do that. So if you go over here, I can go to the equation editor if I want, or I can just come over here to the dimension. I can dimension that line, and then come over here and click on that equation, right? So it's saying, hey, it's already giving me the value. So it's showing me here, and it's highlighting it, so it's going to be D3. And right inside of there, I could say, well, actually, I want to use D2, right? And I want to multiply it. So I'm going to use a little multiply symbol times 4. And that's going to be my new equation. Notice if I click out of that box, it shows up as 4 inches. Click OK. And now I have that set up as a 4:1. So if I go over here and I change this to 2 inches, that should change to 8 inches, and so on. So now I've created an equation that links one value to another value. Now you can get even more complicated, right? You could say, hey, I want the length of this thing to be the addition of this plus this minus that. I mean, so you can do something like that as well, and you can just build that equation however you want. Now, again, using global parameters, using equations is a great thing to do in your designs because it's making everything parametric, right? And instead of having to type things and calculate them yourselves, once you've created that global parameter or that equation, it's always going to be used, and you'll always have a very robust and well-built design. And again, if you want to use multiple parts, all with those same equations, using those global parameters are great, because once you have that file stored on your file system, you can link that to as many designs as you want.